If America is the land of plenty, then why are so many people going hungry, really hungry?
More and more families are going a day or 2 or 3 days without any food whatsoever.
Hunger is often invisible, but not here on the streets of San Diego, where young and old line up for a loaf of bread, some eggs, milk, and a bit of produce.
Some wait over 12 hours. We had a 3 o'clock distribution today, and I've seen them line up beginning at 2:30, 3 a.m.
This storyline is playing out at churches and food pantries across the country, courtesy of an economy gone bad. More families forced to cut back, and that includes groceries.
It's hard to find good numbers on just how many people are actually hungry, but food banks across the U.S. say demand is definitely up this year.
The nonprofit group Feeding America oversees 200 food banks across the country, like this warehouse in San Diego. The food banks supply 63,000 food pantries. This year, the pantries report demand is up as much as 20%. That translates into an average of 4 million people standing in line for food every week. Pastor Frank Allen works with the ministry Operation Blessing to supply food to the poor in Portsmouth, Virginia. This year, the number he is feeding has doubled.
In this community, there are children that go to bed hungry.
Sometimes Allen's ministry provides multiple meals during the week, like dinner at this children's tutoring program. That's because he's not sure what these kids are getting at home.
Some folks eat 2 meals a day. A lot of people just add another can of water to the soup to water it down to fill their kids.
David Michael has 3 kids to feed, and in his family of 5, he's the only one bringing home a paycheck. He never expected to stand in a food line.
I used to volunteer here. I used to be on the other side.
But Michael is here because his employer cut his hours, and new jobs are tough to find, especially with so many industries not just cutting hours, but laying off people.
Many have lost their jobs or are coming to me and asking me for leads on jobs or ideas on jobs, and keep my ears open for something that they can get into again.
I was averaging 40 to 50 hours a week. Now I'm averaging between 25 to 30.
Emmanuel Jackson is a restaurant cook whose family budget is tighter than ever.
Averaging take-home pay would be about $150 a week. That's not enough to take care of a wife and 5 children.
Jackson took a second job at minimum wage, but without help from a food pantry, his cupboards would be close to empty. With his second job, Jackson earns too much for food stamps. But as many families know, food stamps are only part of the solution. The average monthly benefit for a family is $215. Food pantries say they are also seeing more seniors, unable to manage rising food prices on fixed incomes.
This food, what you see here, is actually not as much as we usually have this time of year.
The other part of the problem is food supply. For many food banks, corporate donations are down. Unfortunately, we can't really tell how many adults and children are hungry. Government figures for 2007 show 4% of U.S. households suffer from what's called very low food security. That is, they're cutting portions, or at times skipping meals altogether. And groups like Feeding America believe the problem is worse this year and will continue to grow. That means more and more people will find themselves in a very difficult position.
They're embarrassed. They're ashamed. They've never had to ask before, especially senior adults. They're not used to asking.
Can you imagine not knowing if you're going to eat or not, and then going to school and being hungry the whole day and getting your lunch, and then finally you're full because it's the first time you've eaten in the last 24 hours, and now you're a little sleepy?
The good news is there is help available. The government says only 2/3 of those eligible are taking advantage of food stamps. For others, food banks will make the difference. But with supplies in question, many pantries worry that they may not be able to help provide what so many take for granted: food on the table. In San Diego, Heather Sells, CBN News.